right, Wes Jordan. I can call you Wes, right?
Of course.
All right. I want to start going backwards. Your career. I've got a chance to call a bunch of baseball for ESPN, ESPN Plus, and you hit the heck out of the ball. I mean, take the compliment.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've seen you personally hit some moonshots. I think probably one of the longest shots at the stadium you had at Baylor Ballpark.
I think so. Yes, sir.
In history, right?
Since 2015, I think is what it is, when they started tracking them.
But exactly. So since they started to track them, it's the longest. But we talked a little bit before off camera about your journey as a player, and I think it is interesting to dip into your perseverance and your ability to overcome adversity. You missed a lot of time this year because of a concussion. Walk us through what happened.
Well, I mean, it was that West Virginia game. Took a fastball to the head and just kind of knew instantly because I honestly can't remember that Friday night too well.
Yeah.
And so JB came out and he just kind of put a hand on me. He said, "You good?" I said, "Nope." He said, "All right, we'll take care of you." And kind of with NFL, you see a concussion, it's like, oh, it's a week. It'll be fine. But a week went by. I wasn't getting better. 2 weeks. Finally, the third week started to get better. Tried to get back for Oklahoma because we were still in the race to get the tournament, but couldn't get ready. Got the last 3 games in, but that kind of put a little halt on our momentum that we were having.
Yeah, and you were a huge part of that momentum, obviously. So yeah, you being out, it was devastating to the team, but your progress off the field around that. How did you find sort of the ability to maybe locate the quiet place inside you and keep going?
Well, that for me always comes back to faith, and I try and I'm not perfect at it, honestly, but trying to rely on my faith as much as I can. I mean, I have the trust God's plan on my glove just to kind of remind me that it happened for a reason, and maybe I don't know it yet, still don't really know why, but there's definitely a reason. So that's kind of how I was at peace with it. I never was really upset, just trying to get back.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
So 22. So your life, you've got a body of work probably from what you remember, like 15 years or something like that, But faith is so important because in my own experience, you really do look at your body of work and you say, oh, I've had faith and everything has worked out. So why would God drop me right now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you go through and you bounce back. Is there ever any fear of like, I'm not going to be able to see the ball the same, or I'm not going to be able to hit it the same?
I wouldn't say so. I think for me especially, I had a little bit of, the only concern was, not seeing a live pitch for 3 weeks, not that I got hit in the head. Because as a power guy, you're going to get pitched in, you're going to get fastballs in a lot, so I got to be comfortable with it. And so just when I came back, it was more of, I had missed, I think it was 10 games or something, and it was more about missing 10 games than why I missed the 10 games. So I wasn't too worried about the physical part of it.
A power hitter like yourself, what is that feeling when you get a hold of one and it's gone?
The feeling is you feel nothing. When you feel nothing, that's when you got it. It's kind of counterintuitive, but like with the metal bats especially, if you get it off the hands or off the end, you kind of feel it off the bat. But when you don't feel the ball at all, you probably got it pretty good. What
led you to come to Baylor, a place where, Coach Thompson is a huge advocate of yours on and off the field? He said I remember earlier when getting ready for some of the early games, he talked about that he'd almost never seen a guy hit with the power that you have. Clearly, that's a guy that's in your quarter. I'm sure he came after you pretty heavy. What about the school brought you to Baylor?
So really a big part was we were talking about a second ago, my high school teammate, Ty Johnson.
Yeah. He at Marcus High School in Flower Mound.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And he was kind of trying to get me to go to Baylor from the start of my sophomore year in junior college. And so he kind of reached out just seeing how my recruiting was going because, it's a whole another set of recruiting at a junior college. And I wasn't getting the offers I wanted, but I knew I was a capable player. And so really it just turned into him and my high school coach, Jeff Sherman, they pretty much were like, Coach Thompson, like, get this guy. He won't disappoint. And what Ty did, I think Ty got me my offer, in all honesty. He got Thompson out to the game that got me my offer. And so that was just by, the relationship we had from high school and keeping up those first 2 years of college. He just said, like, take a chance on this guy. Not everybody's on him, but he won't disappoint. And so I owe a lot to Ty for that.
Well, you haven't disappointed.
Try not to.
At all. You're getting ready for your senior year, but when we talk about your career, what has baseball taught you about yourself?
I think it's just taught me that I'm capable of a lot more than I think sometimes. Baseball is 90% mental. And so you're always fighting those ups and downs when you're in a slump or whatnot, just seeing what you can do. And I've kind of used baseball to commit to myself to see what I'm capable of. And luckily, everywhere I've gone, I've been able to have success, God willing, and just it's shown me that when I put my mind to something, I can get it done.
For people who don't know, how hard is it to hit a breaking ball? A really good breaking ball.
I hate it. It sucks. It's very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, when that ball, can you tell when it comes off the pitcher's hand that this is spinning different? This is something that could be difficult for me. Because for anybody, for the average person, Wes, it's impossible. So you have one of the hardest. They say, they being a lot of experts and myself included, hitting a baseball is the hardest thing in sports, especially a really good breaking ball. What goes into hitting it?
I think just seeing it so many times. I've played since I was 3. Obviously, I'm not getting curveballs at 3, but you're probably starting to see curveballs at 11, 12 years old. And so just you start to recognize it and you practice it like we do. We hit curveballs off the machine every day at practice. And once you see it, you can start to pick up little things like curveballs will kind of pop up out of the hand when they throw it. Sliders are tough because it looks like a fastball until it's in the other batter's box and you're swinging over it. And then don't even get me started on changeups. I hate them. But you just kind of, the more you see it, the more comfortable you get with it, and then try and hit it like anything else, really.
When you get good news, I want to talk about you as a person. When you get real good news, who's the first person you tell about it?
I think the first call is my dad, and then I text my mom.
Okay.
So not either one of them first, but my parents are, they go to almost every game they can. They take off work when I was in high school to go to games, and they just always been my biggest supporter, so I always just want to tell them first.
Is that where you learned, your faith, or is that where it was developed?
100%.
Yeah.
We've gone to the same church since I was 1, so.
So I got to imagine, of course you do your part and Coach Thompson does his, but the stars were aligned, or the spirits, whatever, that brought you to Baylor. It was probably bigger than you.
Oh, 100%. And the whole recruiting from junior college was trust God's plan. That's why it's so important to me, is because I'm not choosing my path in life. I'm just following what God set out for me. And so when you kind of look at it like that, it makes it a lot easier. And when I got the offer to come to Baylor, it just felt right. And so there wasn't much of a thought. It was just, this is where I was supposed to go.
If you ever have a teammate that comes to you, because I've had this happen to me in my walk, but a teammate comes to you and they said well, how can you trust God's plan? Like that, sometimes people get, in my opinion, I'm like, you just need to get off the debate squad. And really, and like I talked about, look at your body of work, right? And it's clear that when you're doing the next right thing, it is God's plan.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you encourage people, or not so much encourage them, but give a response to them when they ask that question that, exudes that faith?
It's an everyday challenge for me. It's not easy to just trust a higher power,
Yeah.
And so, my biggest thing that I tell people in any sort of faith conversation is just prayer, and being comfortable with prayer, and being comfortable with not necessarily getting the answer right away. And when you can kind of put aside that, because how everything is now, you want things right in front of you
man.
today,
Yeah.
next minute. But if you're able to kind of sit back and just kind of like you're saying, look at everything that's happened so far, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, the totality is it can really keep the ball rolling, right? When you see, okay, and then you start to do the next right thing, you get full of self-esteem, all that stuff works out. Off the field, outside of your faith, what else interests you? What else makes you tick?
I'm a big movie guy, actually.
Oh, really?
Movies and TV shows. Yeah, I just kind of I like listening to stories, watching stories, and because I was a big reader growing up. I was a bit of a nerd. I've read Harry Potter like 5 times. I mean, all sorts of stuff. So I just kind of like diving into stories and enjoying them. I mean, people put a lot of work into it, so.
It's amazing, and it's probably something you can relate to as an athlete. All the work that you put, like every at bat, like all the time that you put physically and then mentally getting to the pitcher or mentally getting yourself in the right place, what's going to come at a certain time. Yeah, that's a great point you make, all the work that goes into it. What's your favorite movie recently?
That's always a tough question. I
Yeah.
never know how to answer.
I don't either. I hate when people ask me to rank stuff and what's your favorite. But recently, you have to have seen a movie where you came away and you were like, that was pretty good.
I just watched The Batman again
Okay.
recently with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a couple years old, but that's
Yeah.
the one I watched most recently. I've watched it a few times just because it's so good.
Yeah.
But I always go back to Shawshank Redemption too, which
yeah.
is widely considered one of the best movies.
Yeah.
And so to me, there's a best movie in each category.
Yeah.
Because if it's hard to compare those two.
There's a lot of spirituality in the Shawshank Redemption too. Like kind of
Really?
a lot of nuggets in there. Yeah. Like here's an example.
Mm-hmm.
Get busy living or get busy dying.
That's true.
Yeah. So I've been sober off alcohol and drugs for like 13 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I really discovered my faith. But you hear that in the rooms of recovery a lot. Like get busy, get sober or follow God. Like get busy living, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's a huge part of it. What do you consider yourself, or what could you see yourself doing down the line? Like, let's say baseball, your baseball career's over.
Mm-hmm.
All right, playing career. Do you see yourself being a coach? Do you see yourself getting into education, business? What, I mentioned Pat Combs. He's got like this Combs Capital empire, former Baylor player and first-round pick. He's transitioned into business nicely. Well, how about yourself?
I've thought about coaching. I would do, if I could, perfect scenario would be high school, because my high school is really tight around the baseball team and a lot of support. And I like seeing kind of the concept of these are guys you grew up with for 18 years and now you're going to try and win a state championship, which to me is one of the coolest things you can do in sports, just because you're winning with guys you grew up with. So maybe something like that. But I've also looked like in the business world, I've tried a few things. I had a little detailing business with Ty actually back home. So I've tried stuff like that, but
Do you still have it?
no, we it was 4 of us. It was me and Ty, one guy that plays football at UTSA, and then somebody that plays baseball at UCA.
Nice.
And so when we all went to college, it kind of stopped because it was in Highland Village and we're not in Highland Village anymore. But something like that. But honestly,
So you're a bit of an entrepreneur, though.
trying.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
See what happens, I guess.
Well, what about your senior year? We're going to see what happens there. How much anticipation is that for you leading into like the celebration that is your senior year? How are you approaching that?
I just want to win as many games as I can. Because if this could be the last season I play, and so might as well make it the best it can be, personal performance aside. Like, I just want to be the more games you win, the longer you play. So keep winning, you keep playing.
What's your favorite part about being a member of a team?
The locker room, by far. And that's probably what a lot of people say, because it's just, right now it's 50 of us, so it's 50 of your closest friends just talking shop.
Yeah.
And it's just enjoying it. It's a good time.
How do you stay in gratitude? Because baseball, life, throw you some curveballs. And it's very important because you're probably going to look back on this time of your life, whether you go to play Major League Baseball or whatever you do, of probably you're going to cherish these moments.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay in gratitude in these moments now?
Yeah, I think going to junior college actually kind of helps with that because I notice all the little things now. Like, you know, everywhere I turn, I can grab a protein shake. I can grab a little snack at the field, at the weight room, whatever. You know, we got tutors. We've got all sorts of stuff to help us. And that really isn't the case at a junior college. You're figuring out if you're a baseball player or not. And so just those kind of differences allow me to kind of look and just enjoy what I have. And also having an older brother who played, he still misses it. And so when you have those examples of how much it means to people, it makes it a lot easier to realize what you have.
What's the number one lesson your older brother taught you about the game?
I would probably just being confident is so important.
Yeah.
Because if you go into the box worried about trying to hit a curveball, you're not going to hit it. But if you go into the box thinking, I'm going to hit whatever he throws at me right here, you have a better chance. You're not going to every time, but you definitely have a fighting chance.
How have you improved that mental space going up to the batter's box? You hear coaches, whether it's baseball or softball, talk about, you know, that 4-second walk, whatever, into the box, like to get in the right headspace. Is there something you do, a routine?
So actually, a coach at my junior college, Jacob Walker, I worked a lot with him about mental game because that was a big problem I had between my freshman and sophomore year. And the biggest thing I do is a deep breath that just resets you every time. And then you just fall back on all your training. Like one thing that we worked on is like in the batter's box, you're visualizing yourself hitting a home run every time. You're putting it into your mind. You're putting it into practice. And it helps when you've done it too, so you can replay some of those to remind you that you're capable of it. And so that's a good way to kind of be where you need to be at when you walk in.
All right, last thing. What's one thing about you that people will be surprised to know?
Oh, man. I already said I was a nerd. That's a tough question. Surprise. I'm a bit of a loner. I enjoy my alone time. I don't know if that comes across to people, but
Yeah.
I think someone would be surprised about that.
Yeah, you got a good personality. I am surprised.
I try.
All right, Wes. Thanks a lot, brother.
Awesome. Thank you.
We are Rogue Media Sports.